I'm John Elkington. I'm one of the founders of Volans, based in London and Singapore. And early in 2009, we published a new report called The Phoenix Economy. And the idea there is that the global economy is not just simply in recession, but that it's going into one of the periodic, really profound downturns that will be quite protracted, that will destroy many existing industries, but out of the ashes and the rubble will come a different order. And one of the things that we've done is to look around the world and to ask entrepreneurs, social and environmental entrepreneurs in particular, to nominate government agencies, major corporations, smaller social and environmental enterprises that they think in many ways characterize that new emerging or phoenix economy. And we've picked 50 of those. The title of the report is The Phoenix Economy, and the Phoenix 50, the sort of ranking of organizations within that report are quite striking because they range from extraordinarily large companies like GlaxoSmithKline and TNT through to very, very small organizations like Apopo International, which basically trains rats to go and find landmines. They're not destroyed in the process. They're so light that they don't trigger the mines. So quite a spectrum. One of the striking things for us in doing the survey was when we polled these entrepreneurs and thought leaders around the world was that the number one nomination in terms of frequency of votes, if you like, was the Obama presidency. And I think one of the reasons for that is that people acknowledge that in these sorts of times government firstly becomes more important, but that what we need is government as unusual. And I think what you see the Obama administration doing is setting very ambitious targets. For example, in the new Energy for America plan. And the state of California also came fairly high in the rankings. One of the reasons for that is that they tend to be a test bed for new regulations promoting new technologies. And I think at this moment in historical time, it's enormously important that we don't simply ride this wave down and get into an enormously pessimistic gloomy mood, but that we begin to work out what it is that we're going to do, not simply to reconstruct the old order, but to build a new economy. And it has to be an economy that is going to work for not just the 6.5+ billion people who are in the world at the moment, but the 9 to 10 billion people who will be here by mid-century. I love looking back at the early years of aviation, where most of the photographs you see show aircraft that are crashed. Sometimes, unfortunately, the pilots have been killed. That's where we are now in all of this. We're going to have to try a lot of stuff very, very fast. A lot of it will fail. We've got to learn from those failures very fast. As that series of experiments happens, the more successful ones will coalesce into new enterprises, new business models. And I always remember the thing that Thomas Edison, who founded General Electric, said when he was in pursuit of the incandescent light bulb. Now at least I know 10,000 things that don't work. And then he got to the incandescent light bulb. We've got to fail a great deal. A lot of people see the prospect of an extended period of economic downturn as absolutely horrible, a cause for pessimism. I think all of that's quite fair, but out of these periods of history we see convulsive change in a number of different ways. We're already seeing it, and one of the companies that is in the Phoenix 50 is GlaxoSmithKline, which has very recently announced that it's going to radically reduce the cost of drugs exported to the developing world. And in terms of access to medicines, that is a huge shift. It's something that their competitors are going to be forced to respond to. And in terms of issues like HIV/AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis, some of the very big diseases that are becoming an increasing threat in many parts of the world, that sort of shift is enormously important. The key thing, though, is that this cannot simply be a citizenship response to those sorts of challenges. Increasingly, it's got to be built into the fundamental business models that companies like GSK use. And I think the fact that they're seeing it that way is enormously encouraging. One of the extraordinary things as we started to talk about the Phoenix economy has been the recognition that we get, that people almost feel that they've heard the phrase before. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is the Phoenix has been out there for a very long time, the sense of an old order going down, a new one being born. But we're much encouraged by that response, and one of the things that we're planning to do next is to move from a Phoenix 50 to a Phoenix 500. And getting the change makers, the innovators and the entrepreneurs themselves to help us develop the criteria against which we select the 500, and also nominate the organizations and enterprises around the world that most excite them. That's where we're headed next, and I have to say it excites me a great deal. Early in our history as Volans, we formed an advisory board, and 2 of the 10 members, I think, illustrate the extraordinary challenge, but the extraordinary opportunity that we now face. One is Bunker Roy, Barefoot College in India, somebody who operates right down in the very much at the grassroots level, getting education to children who wouldn't otherwise get it, women who are actually helping turn into water or solar engineers. It's an extraordinarily exciting initiative, Barefoot College. But at completely the other end of the spectrum is Jerry Linenger, who is one of these very rare creatures who was both an American astronaut and also trained as a cosmonaut in Russia and flew on both the Discovery and Atlantis shuttle missions, but then I think for about 5 months on the Russian space station Mir. And again, just to show the connections that are starting to form in the space, Jerry is also very closely linked with an organization called Circle of Blue. When he was up in space, he had one of these transformative experiences. You know, many of these astronauts came back as semi-religious nutcases. He didn't. He came back absolutely seized with the notion that what we had to do was deal with environmental issues, but particularly water, and what Circle of